Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin on Rugby preview show. Joining me to look ahead to Saturday's match over in Normandy is someone earning his 39th Harpin cap. Welcome back to Mr. Neil Keego Keegan. And he's still over there.
I'm still over here. How are you guys? I am the coldest man in the world. So yeah, I've still got my dressing gown on. I slipped more times this morning walking the kids to school. I think I'm going to end up on the news this evening, but I hope everyone is well.
Right. So listen, before we get to the previewing, on our main pod after the Ulster game, we harped on the Cian Healy red card quite a bit, and we presumed we were done with it, but there were more developments during the week. What did you make of it all?
Yeah. So you and I had a chat about it after the game, and upon first viewing, not being able to hear the ref, and with the speed of the game, it looked like level challenge. It was just one of these things. I thought it was a yellow, but you were adamant it was a straight red. So I went back, watched it again, and you kind of go, right, listening to the referee, it's a red, and you can't really argue. I don't even think Cian Healy could argue. And I thought, okay, relatively clean player, all that sort of stuff. It's a, what is it, 3 weeks or whatever that number is. That's it. We've got to navigate that. But there's been a lot of disciplinary issues in terms of holding up red cards or letting them go in the last while. Look at Dupont the other week. And they've rescinded the card. They've said he's free to play. Now, you know, putting my blue underpants back on, I'm delighted. But it's not the way we want to send this forward. If it's a red on the pitch, it's a red on the pitch outside of something silly. Personally, I thought it was a yellow first. Watching it again, it's a red. And look, hands up, can't really argue.
Yeah, because I mean, we like, I gave my opinion on it already on the blog. I thought, according to the guidelines, according to what they're trying to do, the reason they're doing this, and it's not about intent, it's about your technique in tackling. They're trying to get people to the first instinct to go lower, and that's the whole element here. So I've said all that, but the extra element to this, as you said, is that the referee's already made the decision. And he didn't just make the decision, he did it really well on the pitch, and you could tell that he was giving his account of the match, but going by what he had been told. He was going out of his way to say, listen, these are the steps I've been told, and going by these steps, this is how I'm doing it. He went to all that trouble to go to his told, only for it to be taken out from under him a few days later. It would have to be something really so obviously clear cut, you think, to overturn what the decision he made. That's what surprised me more than anything else. And it kind of makes a mockery. I mean, they do a lot of talking when they give these decisions. You feel like in the future, if someone a bit more sarcastic might go, listen, I think the guidelines say red, but I'm afraid they're just going to overturn me anyway and make me look like an idiot. So I'm just going to give them a yellow just to be on the safe side. That's basically the translation of what they'll be saying on the pitch if they're not going to be backed up. Anyway, listen, let's move on to the actual rugby now. As you can see, this week's feature Harpin match is Racing 92. Been practicing that versus Leinster. It's in round one of the Heineken Champions Cup. It's taking place at the Stade Océan in Le Havre on Saturday, December 10th, kicking off at 1 p.m. The dreaded lunchtime kickoff. It's being shown on BT Sport 2. Leinster named their matchday squad at lunchtime on Friday. So why don't we get to harping on it, starting with the back line. And at fullback, we got Hugo Keenan. The wingers are James Lowe and Jimmy O'Brien. The centers are Charlie Natai, Gary Ringrose, who's the captain, and the halfbacks are Jemison Gibson Park and Ross Byrne.
Yeah, look, outside of the injuries, I think it's the best we could do. It's good to see Keenan back, good to see Lowe back. I thought he was pretty good. As we said afterwards last week, Ringrose is worth twice the price of admission. And as our captain, it's great. Charlie coming back after was it shoulder, something like that. They're showing good faith in him, playing him in a big game. So there's obviously something happening that we've been speaking about over the weeks where the penny is dropping and he's gonna be there ready to rock, but he's got the captain right there to speak to. The captain also is keeping an eye on the wing outside, as we saw in the RDS last week. I just think I was, as I said to you before we started, I was hanging on to last week, the joy of it, the way we came back, all that sort of stuff that you've already covered. And the general crack and volume, I was holding on to that until kind of yesterday evening when we were starting to build up to this. Teams come out. I'm happy with the squad. I'm happy with the backs, but I'm a little bit worried. You know, if you look at we'll talk about it at the end, but like they've got Raskin more games in the boots, only 3 more games, but They've got more time together, all that sort of stuff. We need people like Lowe to come in and continue the form. We need Charlie to really step up. This is a big game for him. That midfield he's up against, this is a big test, and so he's got to really listen to his captain, but he's also got to do a job. I have faith in him, but maybe it's the cold getting to me. I'm positively not as positive as I was last week.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we do have, like, everyone acknowledges we have a real star-studded squad. But you take the names Johnny Sexton and Ty Furlong out of any lineup, and it's going to make you wonder. But in terms of, I think Gary Ringrose really stepped up in terms of leadership last weekend. I mean, he's showed so much ability just to get himself out of any situation and produce exactly what's needed in that moment. I mean, I wouldn't put him past putting his hand to a tight head prop at some stage. He's that good, And as for Charlie, this is almost a good game for him because he's come out of the top 14. He's played wrestling before. He knows these kind of occasions. He's no stranger to playing rugby over on those shores. So it'll be good. It's a good center partnership for Havre. It was really important that he was fit. So let's move on to the forwards now. And the front row is Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Michael Alatoa. Second row, James Ryan and Jason Jenkins. And the back row, Ryan Baird, Josh van der Fleer, and Caelan Doris.
I love our second row. This is our without, I'm not going to finish that sentence without jinxing anything. This is our business end of the season second row. Seeing Jenkins up close and what he does for Ryan, as we mentioned last week, is beautiful. It's great to watch live. Front row, obviously missing the big man, but Alatoa is no slouch. They play a different game. So I think we've got to take that into account. I think starting with Sheehan means that Kelleher is going to be hungry later on in the game. You can sense how annoyed he was, with the injuries and things like that, and Sheehan kind of bringing it in. Again, they play a slightly different game, but Kelleher to come on, I think Alatoa is going to surprise us. I think the up front is obviously, as usual, where the game's going to be won and lost. The back row is just majestic as always, missing Furlong, but I think I'm happy with it. You know what I mean? I'm happy with it. I think the second row is going to do a big job this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that interests me now is we're going to start to see Ryan Baird, hopefully, as we want him to be in that sixth row. You could go back as far as Rocky Elsom, but that aggressive number 6 role, and coming out from he was kind of under Scott Fardy's wing almost over the years, and he kind of brought him forward for that extra bit of not just the carrying, not just the thing, but getting involved, getting stuck in, getting under the skin, and all that kind of stuff. And you've said yourself on this pod that he's angry, that he's looking ready to play this kind of role. So this is exactly the game where we'll hopefully start to see that.
And we'll have 2 of them in the pack now with Jenkins. So it's rare that happens. Not that we're talking about playing an illegal game, but a monstrously aggressive.
It's what we've been criticized for. It's for failing over the past few years. It's exactly that extra 1% or whatever at the top. So
so 2 of these in the pack is going to be massive, and the job they do behind that front row. You almost might see them pushing in behind Alatoa and kind of not within the rules, obviously, but that's where Racing are going to aim. Obviously, with Furlong out, they're going to aim at that direction, and you'd almost kind of go, right, let's force everything up his side and see what they do. If they get pushed back once on that side, they'll reset and have to rethink. So,
yeah. Definitely. Okay, so let's have a look at the bench now. And the front row on the bench is Ronan Kelleher, Ed Byrne, and Cian Healy. Ross Maloney and Jack Conan are the other forwards. And then it's rounded off by Luke McGrath, Harry Byrne, and Jamie Osborne.
Yeah, it's a great bench. It's a very strong bench. Even what we spoke about earlier on, thankfully Healy's there to come on, bring some experience. Osborne is, you got Osborne, Jimmy O'Brien. There's a few other guys who are going for Player of the Year already. But Osborne could go in there and slip in anywhere. He's a big boy. I didn't know how big he was until we watched him live last week, and he happened to come over to our side to say hello to his family. He's a big boy, and so you throw him. I know we're missing Henshaw in the midfield, and Charlie's in there, but there's another big guy who can go in there too, with experience, with a good boot on him. I'm happy with the bench. I'm actually that's a quarterfinal, semi-final bench.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jamie Osborne, he's had 4 starts for Leinster this season, all in different positions,
Yeah.
which kind of makes him, I mean, we've got other options there, Jordan Larmour and stuff, but I think he is, the way he's played and the way they've relied on him, and also that big left boot of his as well. I think he's played his way. He could even start, but that 23 jersey right now at this time, his career is perfect for him in these matches. And we could definitely be needing him in those closing stages as well, you know? So my biggest concern for Leinster, I think overall, is discipline. We've been shipping a lot of penalties in the last couple of weeks, and anytime. But again, in these really big matches, the last thing you want to do is get the wrong side of the ref early, let a lot of penalties go, and you'll find yourself way too far behind, even too far behind for Leinster to call it back. So overall, discipline would be my biggest concern. But I'm sure they know that too.
Oh, absolutely. And I prepared for that. I knew you were going to say that, and I had a look. Okay, obviously there's 3 games in the difference, but there's more penalties conceded in the same amount of games by Racing, and there's less tries scored. So, without going through them all, but
they'll do it too.
They can be pressured into penalties as well, and a lot of them in their own half.
Absolutely. Well, listen, just talking about our opposition, let's move on to them. And we are, of course, talking about Racing 92 or 92. As always, hopefully my graphics department to put their lineup on the screen. If you're listening to the pod, it's in the program notes. Now, they rested a lot of players in the top 14 last week against Toulon. And so this looks like a very full strength squad.
100%. There's some beautiful competition in there. Like you got Russell v Byrne, you've got Lone, I'm off, which is a great name for a winger. But if you look at the front row, it's as it happens when you're playing a top team, it's monster v monster. And it's we know where they're going to aim at. They're going to aim at the perceived weak link on our side. So the job that Alatoa has to do is going to be massive. These are big boys. Their second row as well are a pair of bullies who can play ball as well, which is going to be great to see Jenkins and Ryan up against that. Back row, look, a couple of those guys will get into a 15 from the combined and back rows, but it's going to be a fantastic dogfight, certainly up front. Backline, some sexy players in there too, but I'm more worried about the pack v pack situation.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk about the backline a bit, I've been watching them all season, and they do have a very dangerous back three. This guy Max Spring at 15, he reminds me of James Lowe in that he can every time he gets the ball, he's trying to make something happen, and he has the ability to do it. So now on the other hand, we've been really on point with our kicking game. We're not afraid to kick, but we've been really good with it, really accurate, finding grass when we need to be and doing it in the right way. So we'll need that to be where it is, because any stray any poor kicks will be punished. So I would have to be wary of that. And like you say up front, they've got it. They do have a lot of aggressive forwards. They got Camille Shah, who has a neck that can be seen from space. He's got all this going on, and it's a very aggressive pack, and they've got good bench as well. So it's going to be definitely an 80-minute tussle for sure. Now moving on to the officials, it's Luke. It's an English crew. Luke Pearce is the referee, and you see the replacements or the assistants and TMO there. Now, as for the weather, the forecast for Saturday afternoon in La Havre is just meant to be cloudy, 70% chance of rain. So that'll make it interesting if it's a wet surface, kind of windy, southern direction kind of kick. I don't know much about the conditions in the stadium there, but hopefully that won't be a factor, or it might even just level things out if it's like it is. So that's the weather. But now it's time to put our heads on the block, and it's time for predictions. And so how do you see it going?
I think last week is credit in the bank. I think there's a fearlessness in this team that is rarely there, because we've rarely had to do that job. But it's going to be close, as we say, and I think it's going to be a late score. I think it's going to be Leinster +5, with the score coming in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on the +5. I think we might actually might go a bit differently. That might establish a lead, and they'll call us back, and we'll be biting our nails in the last few minutes. But it's either way, it's guaranteed to be close. No room for error. It's going to be real cup rugby. It's a real good way to start the competition. I really do think I know I'm biased, whatever, but this really is the tie of the round, and it's something definitely looking forward to. Now we're just looking at the other provinces. They're all in action this weekend as well. So see what you think there. First of all, we got Connacht kicking off their Challenge Cup against Newcastle.
because they're on a run now. That was a good game for them last week. I'd love to see them turn over Newcastle. I think they will. I think there's momentum. I think there's for the first time in a long time they feel like they're on a run. You can tell it's not just a couple of players; it's the entire squad. So again, no one wants to go to the sports ground. It's freezing in summer. So I don't think anyone fancies it. I think if they can get parity early, I think if they can push forward early, I don't think Newcastle would like it up them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Connacht win.
Yeah. Okay. And next one is Ulster's opening Champions Cup match. We had Ian Frizzell on the pod a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about this game, and he said, "Yeah, it's like we're evoking Enya." And I was like, "What does that mean?" That actually sailed right over my head. But he meant he was going sail away, sail away, sail away, and I was like, "Okay, now I get it." Sale Sharks against Ulster. What do you think?
This is going to be interesting because Ulster were on a run. They were doing well, and there was a fairly swift kick to the Leroy D last weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come back. I haven't heard about Cooney. I don't know what the story is, but
he's on protocols. He's not playing this week. He's on the return to play protocols.
Okay, well that's good to hear. Bad for them this weekend, but that's good to hear. This is the test. This is what you want if you want to be a top team. You've had a bad week last week. You were sent home, long journey home. So let's see what they got. I want them to win. I think they will squeak by. It might be a up the jumper. Let's just win by a small amount, but I think they'll get the job done. They're going to try and exercise some demons from the RDS last week.
Absolutely. And then finally, down in Thomond, you've got Munster playing. We talk about Cian Healy sort of getting out of jail. Got Mr. Dupont is also playing for Toulouse. That's a big one for Munster.
100%. And I have a challenge for our Munster brothers and sisters. Pack Coleman Park out. Fill it up. Line up outside early. Get the songs going. Start frightening the opposition in the stands in a nice way, just with volume, like you used to do. Support your team. Get in there early. Get the beers in early, and really do your bit because your team needs you this weekend. Munster are continuing to put plasters over broken legs, but you are needed this weekend. And listen, cards on the table. We want Munster to win. We want Munster to perform. It's not in the locker. So it's up to you guys to push them to a point where they haven't been in a long time. So that's my challenge. I take no joy in a defeat this weekend. I want to see standing up and fight. I want to hear it, and I want to enjoy it. So go do it. That's the challenge for you guys this weekend. And there's no slagging at the end of that. That's all we want to see.
No, genuine. Sure, if you did, I would have edited it out anyway, but still, no. And it's the first time, first game on RTE2 as well. It's interesting to see the Champions Cup. It's good to see that on free to air TV. And when it comes to Munster, I mean, within the Irish bubble, we might be saying Munster have been having their problems, but when it comes to everyone knows this is Munster in the Champions Cup at Thomond Park. Nobody's taking that for granted. Toulouse know what they're up against, and what Munster have to do is just bring it to them, and that's going to be a great match. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, the last thing on that, you're absolutely right, and that's how the world sees Munster. But if they come out and Thomond is 3/4 full or half full, they think they've won already. So that's why I'm saying get there early, fill those seats, make that noise, and let them know from the warm-up that they're in a cauldron. And they've got to rethink everything. And that's going to galvanize your team. So go do that. We did it last week when our team went down. They've got to do it this week.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, we're going to leave it there. Thanks to me and Keego for joining me today. I hope it's a lot of good rugby this week, and hope you enjoy it, sir.
Absolutely. Stay warm, everybody.
And to the viewers and listeners, be sure to enjoy the match wherever you are. And if you want to get involved in the conversation during the match, we're covering it on Mastodon these days. So why don't you join us there before heading to the Facebook page for your final thoughts? We'll share all the best comments on our wrap-up pod this Sunday evening. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.